Cristiano Ronaldo arrived in Qatar 2022 not just as Portugal's captain, but as the living embodiment of expectation. Four-time Ballon d'Or winner, record-breaking scorer, and a legend whose presence alone reshaped defenses, he carried the weight of an entire nation and the hopes of a generation. Every tournament, every match had been his stage. Every goal, a statement. At 37, this could be his final World Cup, the last opportunity to assert dominance on the game's biggest stage. The world expected brilliance. Portugal demanded it. His aura was untouchable until it wasn't. But as the group stage unfolded, subtle cracks began to form. Against Ghana, Ronaldo found the net, yet the team's attacking rhythm relied heavily on him rather than flowing through a coordinated system. Against Uruguay, the issue became more pronounced. Isolated runs, predictable positioning, and moments where he was waiting for service instead of dictating tempo. The brilliance remained, but influence, the invisible force that once made him untouchable, was waning. Tactical patterns revealed a team increasingly dependent on one player and every defense studying him more closely. By the final group stage match, the tension was palpable. Portugal needed cohesion, movement, and adaptability, qualities that could no longer rest solely on a single superstar. Fernando Santos observed, weighed, and calculated. Behind closed doors, subtle signals, training adjustments, and the lingering question of Ronaldo's attitude began to form a narrative few outside the team could yet see. The undroppable might finally be challenged. When the round of 16 arrived against Switzerland, the world would witness a seismic moment. A coach daring to place strategy above legend. A young striker ready to seize destiny, and a veteran forced to watch as the narrative around him began to shift. Every pass, every goal, every substitution would be scrutinized. Every triumph by a new hero would cast a shadow on the old. And every frustrated glance from Ronaldo on the bench would hint at an uncomfortable truth. In football, even legends are not untouchable. Cristiano Ronaldo's aura entering Qatar 2022 was untouchable. A four-time Ballon d'Or winner, Portugal's all-time leading scorer, and captain of a nation with immense expectations, he carried the weight of history on his shoulders. Every touch, every run, every shot demanded attention, not just from the opposition, but from the world watching. For years, Ronaldo had been the heartbeat of Portugal, the figure capable of single-handedly altering matches and commanding the narrative. His very presence forced defenses to shift, adjust, and anticipate. Fans expected moments of genius. Pundits predicted leadership under pressure. And yet, beneath the glimmering reputation, subtle questions began to emerge. Could a 37-year-old, at what many considered the final act of his international career, still control the flow of a modern World Cup team? Could a single player remain untouchable when the team's identity was evolving around him? The first cracks were about to appear. The group stage offered a glimpse of what was to come. Against Ghana, Ronaldo scored a penalty to give Portugal the lead. But beyond that solitary moment, the team's attacking patterns revealed dependency rather than fluidity. Long balls were sent toward him, transitions slowed to his pace, and the creative rhythm of midfielders like Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva often hinged on his positioning. Against Uruguay, the limitations became even more apparent. Ronaldo's runs were predictable, often isolated from the collective attack. Defenders could anticipate his movements, and Portugal's tactical structure struggled when the opposition neutralized him. The brilliance was still there, the skill undeniable, but influence, the invisible force that had once made him untouchable, was diminishing. Fans and analysts alike began to notice. Portugal was no longer unstoppable with him alone. The subtle cracks grew more visible in training sessions and behind-the-scenes observations. Coaches noticed that the team's attacking momentum faltered when Ronaldo was tightly marked, leaving gaps in midfield and limiting options for dynamic link-up play. Tactical dependence was undeniable. When he moved, teammates adjusted around him. When he was isolated, the system became rigid. Santos began to weigh not just performances on the pitch, but patterns of influence, stamina, and adaptability. The whispers were not of disrespect, but of practicality. Was it time to experiment? Could Portugal maintain dominance if the team operated less around its iconic star and more as a cohesive unit? Every observer sensed a tension brewing. the first real question about whether continuity or change would define the tournament. By the final group stage match, the stakes could not have been clearer. Portugal required energy, cohesion, and adaptability, qualities that could no longer rest solely on Ronaldo. Subtle signals in warm-ups, minor adjustments in tactical drills, and even attitude during substitutions hinted at what was coming. The pressure was building, both on Ronaldo and the coach, as the world remained oblivious to the internal calculation forming behind the bench. Could the undroppable finally be dropped? The round of 16 against Switzerland was about to reveal not only a tactical gamble, but a fundamental shift in Portugal's identity. A moment that would challenge the myth of invincibility surrounding one of football's greatest icons. The announcement shocked the football world. Cristiano Ronaldo would not start against Switzerland in the round of 16. The news spread like wildfire across social media, pundit panels erupted in debate, and fans struggled to reconcile the idea. For over a decade, Ronaldo had been untouchable, the centerpiece of Portugal's attack, the player who could turn a match on a single moment of genius. To see him on the bench felt almost sacrilegious, yet Fernando Santos's decision was deliberate, measured, and rooted in tactical reasoning. The world's eyes were fixed on the Portuguese lineup sheet, each name scrutinized, each absence magnified. The stage was set for a footballing earthquake, one that no highlight reel could have predicted. Santos's reasoning was clear but daring. This was not a disciplinary decision, it was a calculated gamble. By placing Gonçalo Ramos at the tip of the attack, Santos sought fluidity, unpredictability, and the dynamism that had sometimes been missing with Ronaldo's presence dominating play. He emphasized team structure over individual brilliance, attempting to exploit Switzerland's defensive weaknesses with a faster, more rotational attack. Behind closed doors, the coach had studied every movement, every positional tendency, every subtle hesitation from prior matches. He knew the risk. If the gamble failed, critics would question him endlessly, and Ronaldo's legacy would overshadow the team's result. Yet he committed. Could this bold experiment actually succeed, or would it implode spectacularly? From the opening whistle, it was clear something extraordinary was unfolding. Ramos's movement unsettled the Swiss backline, opening corridors of space that had been tightly sealed when defenses keyed on Ronaldo. Within the first 20 minutes, he scored the opener, a low, angled finish that caught the goalkeeper just off balance. Portugal's rhythm shifted instantly. Midfielders found themselves freer to distribute, wingers cut in more aggressively, and the team flowed in a way that had seemed restrained when the strategy relied solely on Ronaldo. The crowd sensed it too. Energy surged, anticipation grew, and the narrative began to twist before anyone could fully comprehend it. Was history rewriting itself in real time? By halftime, the first act of the round of 16 had been set. Portugal dominated possession, created multiple chances, and appeared entirely in control. Ronaldo remained on the bench, watching, a living symbol of a changing story. The world was captivated. This was no ordinary match, no routine tactical adjustment. This was a test of a new identity, a clash between legend and system, between expectation and evolution. Every pass, every dribble, every goal scored by the new lead striker amplified the tension. The battle for identity had begun, and it was unfolding in front of millions who could feel the seismic shift in footballing history. From the opening whistle, Gonçalo Ramos moved like a force that no Swiss defender could fully anticipate. His first goal came within the first 20 minutes, a low, precise strike following a perfectly weighted pass from Bruno Fernandes. It wasn't just a goal, it was a statement. Ramos's positioning stretched the Swiss defense, creating space in areas that had previously been congested under the weight of Ronaldo's dominance. Midfielders found freedom to distribute, fullbacks overlapped with confidence, and Portugal's attack suddenly had unpredictability and fluidity. The stadium, the cameras, the world watching, all felt the seismic shift. Something new was taking shape, and the undroppable star on the bench suddenly seemed less central to the story. By the 35th minute, Ramos had completed a remarkable hat trick. His second goal came from a clever cut inside the box, spinning away from his marker before delivering a low finish past the goalkeeper. The third was a clinical header, timed perfectly, exploiting the precise gaps his movement had created in the defensive line. Each goal reinforced the tactical gamble of Fernando Santos. The team was no longer reliant on one man. Confidence radiated through every pass, every run, every movement. A level of cohesion and energy that seemed almost impossible just days earlier. Momentum had transformed into certainty, and the Swiss defense was scrambling to respond to a Portugal they barely recognized. Ronaldo finally entered the match in the second half, the world holding its breath. Cheers erupted, cameras zoomed in, and for a brief moment, it seemed the legendary figure might reclaim his narrative. But almost immediately, the story diverged from expectation. A goal was disallowed for offside, symbolic of the growing dissonance. The old guard had returned, but the team was no longer defined by him. His presence altered the flow subtly, but it did not dominate. The energy, the rhythm, the unfolding drama belonged to Ramos and the new tactical order. Every glance from Ronaldo carried the weight of history, awareness, and subtle frustration, the tension between past glory and present reality palpable. By full time, the contrast could not have been clearer. Portugal had flourished under Ramos, with fluidity, speed, and unpredictability that had seemed impossible under the previous reliance on Ronaldo. Meanwhile, the legendary star had limited impact, a living symbol of transition. The narrative of untouchable dominance was shifting in real time, right before the eyes of millions. The world realized that the myth of Ronaldo, the undroppable icon, was being challenged, and that the team, the system, and the next generation could now claim their moment in the spotlight. The story had irrevocably changed, and the stage was set for the dramatic tension of the quarterfinals. Fernando Santos doubled down on his tactical gamble. Despite the looming pressure and whispers of doubt following the Switzerland match, he chose to start Gonçalo Ramos once again in the quarterfinal against Morocco. Training sessions leading up to the match showed meticulous planning, midfield rotations, pressing patterns, and offensive triggers designed to exploit spaces between Morocco's defenders. Portugal's formation mirrored the previous round's success, emphasizing fluidity and team cohesion over individual star power. On the pitch, every pass, every movement was orchestrated to maximize unpredictability and counter Morocco's compact defensive approach. But the tension was palpable. Could the same gamble that succeeded against Switzerland hold against a disciplined, determined opponent? The stakes were higher, and the margin for error razor thin. The match unfolded with intensity from the first whistle. Morocco's energy and organization quickly became apparent, neutralizing Portugal's usual attacking rhythm. Despite Portugal dominating possession and creating several promising chances, a single lapse allowed Morocco to capitalize, scoring in the 42nd minute. The stadium fell silent as Portugal struggled to respond. Ronaldo, again on the bench, watched with a mix of anticipation and frustration. When he was eventually brought on in the second half, the pressure mounted, but even his presence could not immediately alter the course of the game. The team that had flourished under Ramos against Switzerland now faced an immovable wall. The dream of progression teetered on a knife edge, and the reality of tactical risk collided with the unforgiving logic of knockout football. As the final whistle blew, the world reacted. Media outlets erupted with headlines questioning Portugal's strategy and the coach's audacity. Social media split into heated debates. Was the team's identity stronger without relying solely on Ronaldo? Or had Santos gambled too much by sidelining a legend in a decisive match? Fans argued passionately, dissecting each moment of brilliance and failure, each tactical nuance and substitution. The conversation was no longer just about Ronaldo, it was about the team, the system, and the delicate balance between honoring a legend and evolving strategically. The tension between star worship and modern football pragmatism had reached its zenith. Statistical analysis and tactical review confirmed what many had felt intuitively. Portugal's identity had shifted. Heat maps, passing networks, and movement charts revealed that the team operated more cohesively with Ramos leading the attack, but against Morocco's discipline, that cohesion was insufficient. Ronaldo's limited influence underscored the reality that even legends could no longer carry a team single-handedly at this stage. The quarterfinal loss, while devastating, validated the narrative that a team-first approach had reshaped Portugal's tactical DNA. The inevitability of change was now undeniable, a story unfolding not as a fall from grace, but as the harsh reality of football evolution. Cristiano Ronaldo's role in the 2022 World Cup was not ended, but it was irrevocably reframed. The undroppable star, once central to every tactical plan, had been repositioned, not by choice, but by circumstance, strategy, and the inexorable evolution of modern football. Observers watched a legend forced to adapt to a team-first philosophy, realizing that greatness was no longer measured solely in goals, but in influence, timing, and ability to serve the collective. The image of Ronaldo on the bench against Switzerland and Morocco became iconic, a visual metaphor for the transition from individual brilliance to systemic reliance. Legacy, it seemed, was never simple. It could be reframed without diminishing past glory, but it demanded perspective, humility, and acceptance of the game's relentless progression. Meanwhile, the emergence of a younger generation underscored Portugal's evolving identity. Gonçalo Ramos's performance against Switzerland was a masterclass in finishing, movement, and tactical awareness, while Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva adapted fluidly to new responsibilities. Portugal was no longer a team defined by a single figure. It was a living, breathing system capable of producing results independent of any one player. The World Cup had highlighted the importance of flexibility, cohesion, and energy, qualities that ensured continuity beyond the twilight of a superstar's career. In watching these young players rise to the occasion, viewers were reminded that football's narrative always moves forward and every legend eventually passes the torch. The tactical lesson was clear. System triumphs over singular brilliance. Fernando Santos' gamble had illustrated the necessity of adaptability in modern World Cup football. Individual talent, even of Ronaldo's caliber, could no longer guarantee progression in knockout tournaments without strategic structure and collective execution. Portugal's identity had shifted. A team capable of resilience, dynamism, and unpredictability had emerged, one that could absorb the brilliance of a star without depending on it. The match against Morocco, painful as it was, confirmed that even legends must coexist with evolving tactical demands, and that evolution often comes with visible sacrifices on the field. In the end, inevitability was not a fall, but a redefinition. Ronaldo's World Cup journey in 2022 became a study in timing, adaptation, and the impermanence of invincibility. The world realized that the moment a team places collective identity above individual legend is the moment history begins to pivot. Portugal had lost a match, but they had proven a concept. The future belongs to those who balance brilliance with system, passion with strategy, and reverence with progression. Ronaldo remained a legend, but the story was no longer solely his. Inevitability had arrived quietly, reshaping not just a tournament, but the perception of what it means to lead, to adapt, and to remain immortal in the ever-evolving theater of football.